Hello everybody. For today's post, I'm going to tell you about a trip I took to Africa. When you hear the word Africa, what do you think of? What I think of when I hear that word is animals, and I love animals. And that's why I went to Africa. It was about 10 years ago. A little bit about the difference between here and there. Usually when I do this presentation, I do it live. I've never done it this way before on video, so I'm going to ask some questions and I'll give you a little bit of time to think, and then I'll share the answer and see if you got the right answer or not. So the first question is, do you know what continent we live on? If you said North America, you are correct. So we live in the continent of North America. Africa is a different continent. Those are 2 of the 7 continents. My next question is, do you know what country we live in? If you said the United States, you are right. The country I visited in Africa was called South Africa. All right, the last question for now. Have you ever been to a national park? I've been to a lot of national parks. Some examples in the United States are the Grand Canyon, Yosemite, and Yellowstone. Those are some of the famous ones in America, in the United States. Over there, I went to a national park called Kruger, and that's where I got to see a lot of the animals. The other thing I did while I was over there is I saw animals 2 different ways. I saw animals in a zoo, and I also saw animals on safari. And there's a difference between the 2. In a zoo, the animals all live in cages. You know exactly where they are. Usually you get a map, so if you want to see the penguins, it will tell you where to go to see the penguins, and if you want to see the giraffes, you go see the giraffes. And the animals are usually very easy to see because they're in a small area with a cage. Now a safari is different. On a safari, the animals live out in the wild, and you have to look for them, and sometimes they're really hard to see. And I was lucky I got to do both while I was in Africa. Now, while I was on safari, I went in a special vehicle that looks like this. You can see there's some seats, and there's a place for the driver, and there was about me and 3 other people were in those seats to be able to see, and there's no windows or doors around it, so you could really see all around you and see the animals. And then there were 2 people that helped. So there's the man in the white hat, he was the driver, and the man in the black hat, he's what's called a spotter. And he is really, really good at tracking animals and knowing where they are. So he would tell the driver where to go so we could find the animals. Like he knew to look for tracks, or he knows where the water is because animals need to drink. And so they were really helpful to be able to see the animals out on safari. Now, when you go to Africa, what you try to do is see what they call the big 5. So these are the 5 animals that people really, really like to see while they're in Africa. And you are very fortunate if you get to shoot the big 5. That means shoot a picture and get a picture of all 5. And you have the buffalo. And the buffalo, they are big. They travel in large herds. There's the elephant. The elephant's really big, and they move a lot to find food. So they're always moving around because they eat a lot. The leopard. Leopards like to hide. They're very fast, and they have great camouflage. The lion. There are not very many lions, and they have good camouflage. And then the last of the big 5 is the rhino. And they're big, slow, and they don't see very well. So I'm going to tell you all this because these are clues. I want you to make a prediction. I want you to guess, which animal do you think I saw first? Now, I wanted to see the lion first because the lion is my favorite. But based on these clues, do you think it was I saw the lion first or maybe one of the other ones? So take a minute and think about it. If you guessed the rhino, you were right. The white rhino, there's 2 types of rhinoceros. There's the white rhino and the black rhino. And this was the very first one of the big 5 that I saw when I went to Africa. And because the white rhino has very poor eyesight, they can only see about 6 feet away. I got to get really close. The other thing that was lucky too is the way the wind was blowing. The wind was blowing away from him, and that way he couldn't smell me. So I was able to get really close to the white rhinoceros and get this picture. Now I couldn't go pet him. That would not have been safe, but I was able to get really close. And here's more of the white rhinos. It kind of looks like they might be two colors, but they're not. They're just wet because these rhinos had been laying in some water to cool off. So that's why it looks like they're two colors, but they're not. They're just wet on the bottom half of their bodies. Okay, so which one do you think I saw next? The buffalo, the elephant, the leopard, or the lion? Use those clues. If you guessed elephant, you were correct. At one time, there were only 120 elephants left in Africa. Now there are over 10,000. And elephants have great memories. They can remember a person that they met 3 years ago. And an elephant can lift 20% of its body with its trunk. So this elephant could lift about 300 pounds just with his trunk. Elephants sleep about 4 or 5 hours a day, and they eat most of the rest of the day. That's why they're so big. And they eat plants and leaves. That's why they have only molars, because molars are really good to eat plants and leaves. Now, have you ever heard the story that elephants are afraid of mice? It's not because they think mice are going to run up their nose. That's not why they're afraid. They're afraid because they don't see very well, and they can't really see the mouse, and they don't know what's going to happen. That's why. I got to ride an elephant while I was there, and they made me wear a helmet so I could be safe. I did not fall off. I was really, really fun, but as always, we have to be safe. All right. Now, which one do you think I saw? The choices are the buffalo, the leopard, and the lion. If you guessed buffalo, you are correct. This is a Cape buffalo, and I learned that they have very short tempers and can get mad very fast. And they weigh over 1,750 pounds, which is almost a ton. A ton is 2,000 pounds. Now, buffaloes travel in herds so they can keep safe. And usually when I do this presentation, I can point out where the buffaloes are. Hopefully you can see them in the distance. It's all those little black spots. That's a big buffalo herd. They're all traveling together to stay safe. All right. Last two choices, leopard and lion. If you guessed lion, you are right. I finally got to see the lion, and this is the male lion out in the wild. And what I learned about male lions is they don't hunt. The female lion hunts because of the mane. A lion has a mane, and when he goes through the jungle, the mane bounces up and down, and people can see him. He's so easy to see, and animals run away, so he can't hunt. Now, this picture I took, this was in a zoo, and I was behind a cage. I was safe, and he was sleeping. But this picture I took in a zoo of this lion. This is a lioness, a female lion. This was out in the wild on safari. And you see how she's looking down? The spotter said she's looking down because she's looking at her cubs, her babies. And he said, we can't get any closer because if we get any closer, she's going to protect her cubs, and we would be in trouble. And I was actually a lot further away than this looks. I used a camera and I zoomed in. But yeah, that's a female lion, and she's protecting her cubs. And here's a lioness in the zoo. This was in the same zoo I saw the male lion. She was getting some sun on a rock. I was behind a fence, and I was safe the whole time. All right, that leaves the last one, and that is the leopard. And it makes sense that this was the last one because leopards like to hide, they're very fast, and they are really, really hard to see. And I only saw one out in the wild, and here's a picture of him. Can you see him? I'll give you a little bit of time to see if you can find him. He's really hard to see because he's got really good camouflage. Here's a little help. Do you see him now? All right. So I did not take this picture, but I wanted to give you a really good picture of a leopard. And the leopard, they like to climb in trees. They like to swim. So this picture and this picture are the only two pictures I did not take. I found these on the internet, but I really wanted you guys to be able to see a good picture of a leopard. So those are that. Now, while I was there, I also got to see some other animals, and I want to share those with you. I got to see a baboon. He's on a curb, so this was right out on the road. We were driving by and just sitting there on the curb. Some little baby baboons. They were really cute. I I tried to get they were wrestling right before I got my camera out, just like brothers and sisters do. So I didn't get a picture of them wrestling, but they were playing around. And this is a mother with her baby. And this is why baboons are so strong, because they spend the first few months of their life, this is how they travel around, and they cling on to their mother so they can get the milk. And this is part of what makes them so strong and able to climb and swing in trees. I got to see a few cheetahs in a zoo. And this is a 6-week-old cheetah that I got to pet. There's one of his brothers or sisters, I'm not sure, but that's my hand petting that 6-week-old cheetah. It's very cool. Like I said, this was in a zoo. And I got to see some 10-month-old cheetahs, and it was really cool. And while I was petting him, he was purring like all cats do. And I said to the zookeeper, I said, "Oh, he's purring. What does that mean?" He said, "Oh, it means he's happy. Just like all cats, when they're purring, they're happy. You're safe." I'm like, "Okay, good." I got to see an ostrich. And one of the most fun things I got to do was what's called an ostrich massage. So what you do is you hold the ostrich food and they eat it, and it tickles your neck, and it's an ostrich massage, and that was a lot of fun. So that was part of my trip to Africa. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you're doing great.